Mortal Kombat, one of the greatest fighting game franchises of all time, that spawned several sequels, brutal, fast-paced action, so gory that politicians in the 90s were going wild. They didn't know what to do about it. One of the games responsible for the mature rating system, a true timeless classic, with a K. Well, we're not here to talk about any of the things that made Mortal Kombat a timeless classic. We're here to talk about quite the opposite. Oh yeah, this is a bad one. If you've been following this channel even for a short while, you know I like Mortal Kombat a bit. I've been in love with the series since the original one. Back in those early 90s back alley arcades with that gorgeous glow of the CRT screen on your face while you're smelling old pizza and sweaty children, it was glorious. After flinging countless quarters into these arcades, it was so exciting that eventually we would be able to take these home and play them on home consoles like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, Mortal Kombat 1, 2, 3, then later Ultimate 3, and even Trilogy. Where would the future of the series go after that? Shao Kahn was defeated, so it was time for a new villain. The Elder God of Death Shinnok, who ended up being a rather lackluster villain overall in the scheme of things, to be quite honest. And at times he did resemble a Power Rangers villain. The spin-off Sub-Zero game focused on the series' new villains, Quan Chi and Shinnok, and I remember the hype playing this game in 1997. My excitement for the upcoming Mortal Kombat 4 was through the roof. We had new characters, the series was going into that 3D era for the first time, the future was here, and the commercials were everywhere.
The crushing pound of the mallet. The shattering blow of the club. The slashing edge of the blade.
The final product was kind of a mixed bag. With Mortal Kombat 4, you either love it or you hate it. There's never really an in-between. By today's standards, it's pretty rough. It's nothing like the modern day Mortal Kombat series with its strategic combat flow, fatal blows, customization options, cinematic storytelling. None of that was here. Mortal Kombat 4 was definitely more of a fast-paced button masher, one of those I need to hit my enemy faster than they could hit me before the time runs out kind of games. But I do have lots of nostalgia for it being different than the rest of the series. Although Mortal Kombat 4 did have an arcade release already, it didn't by 1997. The home console version of Mortal Kombat 4 wasn't released until 1998, which did a decent job translating the arcade graphics into a playable home version. But they didn't stop there. Oh no, Mortal Kombat fever had to spread everywhere like an infection, even to areas where it absolutely did not belong. See, back in the day, we had this little device, this little portable handheld video game system called the Game Boy.
Introducing Game Boy. It's portable, it's in stereo, and its games are interchangeable. Plus, Game Boy comes with the outrageous new game, Tetris. And for head-to-head competition, use the revolutionary video link and blow your opponent away. Game Boy, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, portable power.
It had a lot of great games and a lot of awful versions of existing console games. And Mortal Kombat was no stranger to the device. Every main entry of the series was thrown on the Game Boy at the time, and yes, they were all fairly awful versions. And the worst way to play, if of course you don't count the Tiger Electronics handheld versions. But let's give credit where credit is due. If you load up the original Mortal Kombat Game Boy version, they did do a good job making it resemble the game. It even sounds like it. Check it out. Mortal Kombat 2, same story, and the controls are even improved a little bit. Special moves are easier to pull off, it plays a bit smoother, and even Mortal Kombat 3 got a Game Boy port, which overall feels a bit clunky. But I mean, it looks like Mortal Kombat 3. But Mortal Kombat 4, how in the hell do you take this game and transform it into a portable, playable experience on a console with the power of the Game Boy? You don't. You put it on the more powerful Game Boy Color. and it looks like shit. But before we dive in and take a real deep look at it, I'd like to go ahead and introduce today's sponsor, my Patreon. If you'd like to help support the channel and allow me to continue suffering through content like this for all the realms, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month by clicking the link in the description below or heading over to patreon.com/GamerThumbTV. I'd also like to extend a quick thank you to my current patrons and channel members for their continued support. Mortal Kombat 4 on the Game Boy Color. Let me go ahead and start this off by giving it the one compliment that I'm going to give it. It does have color. That's it. It's shocking how truly awful this game is, and it's a perfect example of you didn't need to cram this game into a Game Boy Color cartridge. You didn't have to make a handheld version of the first 3D entry in the Mortal Kombat series, when the current handheld at the time couldn't even come close to replicating that experience. It's even hard finding words for this review, because all I have to do is show you a couple seconds of footage to showcase what you're getting with this game, but let's take a really deep look at why it's so bad. What truly makes it the awful experience that it is. To start off, you're missing a decent amount of characters, which is understandable. When you get a portable version of a fighting game, that's what happens. And this video doesn't take Mortal Kombat Gold into account. Keep in mind that was a Dreamcast Special Edition made later. We're just talking Mortal Kombat 4. Kai is gone, Jax, Johnny Cage, Jarek, Sonya, Shinnok and Reptile are also gone from the standard roster too, although they are unlockable by using cheats, which I will get to in the later part of this video. So there we have our massive selection of characters. And it took me a second to realize that that was Fujin up there in the top right corner. He was hard to make out since he looks like a splash of blue diarrhea spread around a small tile. Let's go into detail at what these characters have to offer, and I promise it's not a whole lot. Mortal Kombat is a series built on multiple special abilities and combos per character with responsive controls, while Mortal Kombat 4 on the Game Boy Color offers the complete opposite. Each character has two special moves and they rarely work. When you press a button, I swear it takes at least an entire second for the game to register that you press something, so everything feels delayed, making the special moves almost impossible to perform. This is a challenge I faced with almost every single character I selected. Quan Chi, for example, his telestomp is performed by pressing forward, down, kick. Nope, doesn't work. I tried it over and over, which normally would be a very simple button combination by Mortal Kombat standards. Almost forgot to mention too that these games always have different variations of punches and kicks, like low punch, high punch, block, run. Obviously this is very limited since it's on the Game Boy Color. You just have a D-pad, a punch button, and a kick button. So you'd think that the moves would be even easier to pull off. Other moves like Liu Kang's Fireball, forward punch, worked occasionally whenever it wanted to. And you're supposed to be able to do it in the air. I was never able to get that to work. I literally went through this entire game beating it with every single fighter and trying out every single move available just to see which ones worked and which ones didn't. And then it happened. I discovered the secret of the special moves accidentally. When I chose Sub-Zero, they all worked, and I set out on a quest to figure out why. So here's how to do it. Let me demonstrate with this PlayStation controller. Watch my hands. Normally, to do a move in Mortal Kombat, for example, say Sub-Zero's Ice Blast, down forward punch. You don't want to press it too ridiculously fast, but enough to string the buttons together so it recognizes that you're doing a special move. Again, with the Game Boy Color, the complete opposite. The button inputs are so delayed that even pressing the buttons at regular speed is too much for the game to register. You have to slow down your button presses to such an extreme level. So let's do Sub-Zero's Ice Blast at the speed the Game Boy Color wants you to do it. Down, forward, punch. Down, forward, punch. If you press the button combinations any faster than this, down, forward, punch, the special move just won't work. It won't. Absolute garbage. Once I figured this out, I was able to pull off most of the special moves. And I know I've spent a nice chunk of this review complaining and ranting that the special moves don't work. But none of that even matters, so I want to go ahead and extend an apology, because I just wasted your time. It doesn't matter at all. You don't need to use any of them to win the game. It's so dreadfully easy that any toddler with underdeveloped fine motor skills could probably win most of these battles with a double flawless victory. I'm not even exaggerating. You want to know the secret to winning? Walk up to your enemy and just mash punch over and over until you win. Seriously, I did this for every single battle. They don't block, they don't move out of the way, nothing. They just stand there and they let you assault them with a barrage of attacks from your pixelized fist over and over. until you get to the final boss, Shinnok, who is also equally a pushover. And what happens when you beat him? Does his face explode off his skull and he goes flying back into the pits of the Netherrealm, and you get a cool cinematic cutscene with amazingly cheesy voice acting?
Brutality! You can't do it!
Wrong, Jarek. This is not a brutality. This is a fatality.
Nope. You just get a wall of text that you have to read, and then you get to do it all over again. I did mention how easy this game was. Well, let me be fair. I started playing on Novice just to test out the waters, so I decided to bump up the difficulty to Warrior, which would be the medium setting. The enemies must put up a little bit more of a challenge, right? Nope. Still the same pathetic AI that can't do anything to you once you start punching away. There's still one more difficulty setting, the highest one, Master Mode. There is no balance to the game's difficulty. On easy and medium, the enemies you face are completely useless. But on hard, they crank up the bullshit meter up to 1,000,000, and you have no chance to react to anything. Let me remind you how unresponsive the controls are. The AI flies around the screen and pummels you. You can press any button you want, but your character won't react to anything. There's no way to stop the beating. But you know what? Just leave it on Novice. This game sucks. Nobody will ever care if you master it on hard mode. Let's talk about the music next, or should I say the lack of music. The entire time one musical track loops for mostly the entire damn game, it was driving me insane. Through the menus, through the character select screen, game over screen, everywhere. There's a second track that played once in a while too, although much less often, that sounds equally terrible. And originally, I thought there was a third track that sounded a bit different, but I actually think it's just a tiny piece of an existing track that got stuck and just kept looping. If you stop and ask any true Mortal Kombat fan what sets Mortal Kombat apart from mostly every other fighting game, what would they say? Fatalities. The gory finishers that you use to decimate your friends. And they're in here too, although I have no words. Just watch. Did you catch that? I wouldn't be surprised if you missed it. Let me slow down the footage. First, I'd like to comment how the fatalities for every character actually worked 100% of the time, so there's another compliment point. But each character only has one, and they look like a mess of gray pixels. Sometimes you can't even tell what the hell you're looking at. Well, these fatalities are pulled right from Mortal Kombat 4, but it doesn't even show the full fatality, and it's usually not even the right fighter you're fighting against. It's all pre-programmed into the footage. Here's me fighting Rico as Quan Chi, and for some reason when I did the fatality on him, it showed Quan Chi doing it to Reptile, I think. It's really hard to tell. I'm gonna help you here though and show you the real fatalities, and then I'll play the Game Boy Color one so you could truly understand what you're missing. Fujin starts a tornado, whips out his crossbow, and blows up his enemy. Liu Kang throws his enemy at the screen violently with a fireball that explodes them. By the way, I love how in the Game Boy Color version, you don't even see a fireball. They just explode. One of the most disappointing ones is Quan Chi. Normally, he rips your leg off and then beats you down to the ground with the disconnected leg. Well, here he just rips it off and they cut away real quick. Look how quick that is. You don't even see it. Nothing even happens afterwards. Raiden picks up his enemy and electrocutes them until they explode. And my favorite thing about this one is how I'm almost 100% sure in the footage that Raiden is electrocuting himself. That's Raiden versus Raiden there. Rico sends his foot through the body, sending all the pieces flying. Scorpion does his classic flamethrower skull finisher, setting his enemies ablaze. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me apologize. I said Scorpion. I meant Scorpio. That's right. They couldn't fit the word Scorpion on the screen, so he's just Scorpio now. Sub-Zero coming in with another classic fatality, the Spine Rip. Tanya steals the Kiss of Death fatality that's already been used before. Of course, you can barely tell in the Game Boy Color version what the hell she's doing. And finally, Reptile chews their face off, one of the more gruesome ones in the original game. In this one, again, you can barely tell what's going on. Speaking of which, as mentioned before, Reptile is a secret character. Before every match, there's the screen where you can enter combat codes. There's a bunch that have different effects. By this time, I was already over this game, so I didn't test them all. Especially after one of them said Noob Saibot, but nothing seemed to happen when I entered it. I don't know what that one does. Someone leave me a comment down below if you know. But yes, one of these codes unlocks Reptile as a playable fighter. And I find two things about him really funny. Number one, looking at his head, including the color scheme, he kinda looks like RoboCop. Looks like RoboCop a hell of a lot more than he looks like Reptile, that's for sure. And number two, I love his ending. It makes me chuckle. Reptile asks a request to return back to his homeworld from Shinnok, but is repaid only with his own execution. However, seconds before, I had just killed Shinnok as Reptile. I guess that's the nature of non-canon endings, I suppose. Shinnok is also playable via a GameShark code. I don't have a GameShark, and I was emulating this, so I didn't get to play as him, though I suspect it would add absolutely nothing to an already awful game. In total, I ran through the entire thing with all the characters in about an hour, including Reptile. Sure, I could sit here and say that it's expected to be very watered down from the original, but this is a significantly different, lower quality experience. A great example of just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. The three original Mortal Kombat games were also pretty bad Game Boy games, but this one takes it to another level. It goes ultra on the shit scale. It is abysmal, and I don't recommend it, but knowing this community, some of you will go out and buy it anyways. You have been warned. Leave me your thoughts down below. I'm curious how many of you out there have played this game, and what are some other bad Game Boy ports that you've checked out. I'll catch you guys later. Since you made it to the end of this video, I assume you enjoyed it, so why don't you go ahead and smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss any new content. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, links in the description below, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can join my Patreon or become a channel member. This is Fabian, I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.